Good afternoon, or if it's not afternoon, good whatever the time of the day you're watching. This is Deadcast, not really, but this is the season 7 mid-season finale. Our afterthoughts on
Yes.
what's happened so far.
Yeah, it's been a. I have mixed feelings because a lot of people were saying the season has been very
Wait,
slow.
who are we?
Oh, geez, how rude of me. I am Skyler, the Walking Dead mastermind.
I'm Alec, just a pleb.
Yeah. Uh, so like, I like to read mostly Reddit after each episode to get the idea of what people are thinking, and I've been surprised on how much disappointment people have been having this season so far.
Interesting you say that. I do the same thing, only on Twitter, and I'm getting the same results.
I like. I get it. I get it at a base level, and we'll talk about this mid-season finale first. But I just kind of want to talk about this for a second. But it's like people are just talking about how slow this season's been, and I get it because it's been a lot of story building. But it's like, do they? It just seems like they're so short-sighted on what it all means and why they're doing it the way they are. But
Yeah.
fuck it, let's go into the mid-season finale, just because
All
that
right.
was just such a great episode. I think great
Yeah.
last two episodes,
Title of the episode was Heart Still Beating.
and
It was not directed by Greg Nicotero, I found out.
oh
Very
really?
surprised by that.
It was a good episode.
It was really good. It was probably like
Who
my
wrote
second
it?
favorite of the season so far. Obviously, the first being the premiere.
Oh really? Okay. Oh yeah. Jeez, that premiere seems so long ago.
Yeah, it did.
That premiere was so. Anyway, okay. So mid-season finale. You know, a lot of shit happens, but we finally get the Spencer gut scene, which, bless their
I
hearts.
almost thought they weren't gonna do it.
I didn't think they were gonna go that crazy with it. It looked like they ripped open like a real stomach. Like I imagine it was probably a pig stomach or something, but it literally looked like they cut him open.
Yeah, the special effects were like definitely on point, and not just for Spencer's, but also for Olivia's death.
Hmm.
Like they were both really important, not just for like the story, but like in the episode itself, like giving like there has to be like a reason to kind of come back for the mid-season
Hmm.
finale, because those are it's like the season premiere, mid-season finale, when the mid-season premieres again, and at the end of the season finale is typically when the viewership is the highest.
Right.
So they have to do something in order to get people to like come back and watch the in between episodes.
Yeah. I mean, like it was one of, like Olivia's death just seemed kind of like okay. I guess it's just because they never really developed that character more than just like, oh, there's a stock person.
I think it just happened so fast that it was like hard to accept almost.
Right.
Like it was very unexpected. Like when
That's
she
true.
turned around, I didn't know who she was gonna shoot.
Right. Yeah. What a crazy shot. What was the name? A rat or something like that?
Yeah, a rat.
That.
Even though her name is literally spelled a rat.
Yeah. But it's like that. Good on her for her accuracy. Like imagine if that hit Carl. Like when
Imagine if she joined FaZe Clan.
oh boop 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 air horns going everywhere.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it was just one of those things where it's just like Olivia died, and I was just like, okay. Like I don't like it. Just seemed like to Rick, it was like, oh, how dare they? It was like, okay. There was just, oh no, another red shirt has died in Alexandria.
Yeah, I mean it's they're kind of running into the issue where they're running out of red shirts now,
Right.
so they kind of have to
Which
like
is like,
sprinkle in a couple major character deaths. Like Spencer's death was pretty impactful.
right. Yeah. No, I understand that because you know it's one of those things where you know Negan has his reasoning, and granted, it is good. Like when he tells Rick, like I just saved your life or whatever, or did you a favor, and
Yeah.
he's not wrong because Spencer was going a bit haywire and was like a threat to Rick.
And like that's the good thing about that storyline, in my opinion, is that everyone was right in their own way.
Right. But it's
Spencer
like,
was totally justified, Rick was totally justified, and so was Negan.
right. So it's just like this really like moral, depending on who you want to follow morally.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was just one of those things where it's
it was just really good fan service.
right. Like the last
What
two
it
episodes,
was.
especially, were pretty much like word for word from the
Hmm.
comic book and frame for frame, which I like. I personally like it because I like seeing things I've read come to life just
Yeah,
as I
I
read
agree.
them. But a lot of people aren't liking that because to them it's just like, oh, nothing new's happening.
And my response to that would be you're watching a show based on a comic, that's gonna happen no matter what. No
Right.
matter what, anything that's transferred over mediums.
It just
But
seems like.
speaking of lines that have been ripped like directly from the comics,
Hmm.
I love, and when I say love, I mean I don't love how they're giving Michonne Andrea's lines now
Yeah.
and completely turning her into Andrea. Like that scene in the not the prison, but in the cell
Hmm.
was like almost exactly the same.
It was word for word what, because like I remember that specifically where it's like Andrea was telling Rick in the comics like, we don't die, we're not allowed to die. It was almost like reconfirming like, oh hey, we have plot armor, we can't die, we can do whatever we want and not die.
Yeah.
But it was just like as soon as she started saying that, it was like I was mentally groaning just because it's like I understand giving plot lines to different characters and
Hmm.
everything, but Michonne has her own story arc in this arc. Like she has an arc in this story, and they're going. And it just seems like they're trading places, and now
Yeah.
Carol's getting Michonne's arc,
Well, that's the
and
thing is Carol is the one who's complicating it right now because in the comic she's dead. So
yeah,
she's not there to have a relationship with Ezekiel, whether that's romantic or not remains to be seen. But still, like she has some sort of relationship with him, which is what Michonne has in the comics. So they're taking away from that, but at the same time they're pushing a character that no longer exists in the show
hmm.
into Michonne's character now, which just seems lazy to me. Like she should get her own arc.
Well, but
Like
the
either give her what she had in the comics or give her something else entirely. Don't just rehash what a character had with her.
I think what's going on is because those arcs are somewhat important. Like I guess we have to look at it as the arcs aren't important to the characters themselves; they're important to the characters in those situations. So because Michonne and there's the Rochonne relationship now,
Hmm.
they have to have like the Andrea relationship with Rick because that's from the source material. So they have to turn her into, as much as I hate it, into the Andrea character, like the sharpshooter, which I hope they don't do. I That would be
It does.
awful.
It would not make any
It
sense.
wouldn't make
She
any
has
sense.
no way to teach herself.
So hopefully they figure out some other sharpshooting situation, which we'll get into. I think
I
probably
just
a little
hope they don't
later.
have it.
Well, but they need a lookout, and for right now that's Sasha. But as we think a certain prediction when we talk about that, that
Nah, let's just not.
probably won't happen. Um, so it's just one of those things where it's like they're slowly turning her Michonne into Andrea, which I don't like. I don't mind them giving the story arc. I guess I just don't want them to just all of a sudden be like, oh, Michonne is now just comic Andrea, and she's no longer going to be the sword fighting badass.
Yeah. Well, here's what could potentially be a good example of how to change the character, where in the comics Eugene and Rosita had like a romance between each other, and it just seemed to sort of come out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
But in the show, I think right now they're starting to lay the seeds of that
Mm-hmm.
with them having their sort of couple fights. I don't know
Right.
really what else way to call it. And now with Eugene stepping up and admitting that he was the bullet maker, and Rosita being really really torn up about that,
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's going to lead to them having some sort of stronger relationship with her probably doing something to get him released.
Yes, but I don't think that it's gonna be. I don't like. I see where you're going with that prediction or theory and everything. I just don't think that would work for the overall story as well. Just like I think Eugene will probably figure a way out or something will happen because like the important part of what happens with Holly's death in the comic is that Negan takes her because Negan thinks that Holly looks like Andrea or is Andrea, and
Yeah,
then uses that as a way to kill Rick.
yeah.
So Rosita doesn't look like Michonne, so it's like the purpose of Negan turning Rosita into a walker isn't there unless they just don't do
Well, no,
that.
no, I'm not saying that's what's gonna happen.
Oh, okay.
No, no, no. I'm just saying like that is just it's its own thing now, where it's like separate from how the comics introduced their
Oh,
romance and
okay.
that it just sort of happened. Like now they're actually giving it
Oh,
like
okay.
a reason
A
and it's
reason to.
important to the story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
the Holly death. I think what's probably gonna happen is that Sasha is gonna die,
Mm-hmm.
and then all the freaking social justice warriors are gonna say, "Oh, it's because she's black that Negan thought she looked like Michonne."
It's like, well, I mean, yeah, the same reason why Holly was killed because she was white and looked like Andrea.
I don't know. I think that like they'll kind of stray away from that. I hope they do.
What if they just
'Cause
kill
that
Morgan? Can Morgan be the one that drives the bus in there? Because I still want him dead.
yeah, he can do that, and then Daryl can get Abraham's death somehow.
Whoa, please, Alec, no.
Speaking of Daryl though, a lot of people were saying that Jesus was the one that freed Daryl.
I
I still don't believe it.
I don't think because it doesn't. For one, it doesn't make sense because how watching Daryl try to leave that compound and how much shit he had to go through. I don't think Jesus could get in and out like that easily.
No.
I just I'm so it's between Dwight and honestly with me Sherry. Like I think it might have been Sherry. They've been kind of pushing that more
But the
and more.
character was wearing boots.
But the note had like curly cues on it.
No, but whoever delivered the note was wearing boots because you could hear him walking away.
That's true.
So it has to be Jesus or Daryl, or not Daryl,
That would be interesting.
a clone of Daryl, which is technically what Dwight is right now.
I hope it is Dwight. I don't know how they're gonna portray that in the show, unless he's been working with Ezekiel this entire time and we just haven't known, and they're gonna be like, oh hey, by the way, I just don't think Sherry's gonna be the comic Sherry. Like I think Sherry might die or do something or something like that because like right now she's like against Rick, if I remember correctly.
In the comic.
Which is like they're like years later.
Yeah.
Where I think right now it's a rat or Erit or whatever the fuck her name is kind of going to be that character if they keep her around.
Maybe she might be.
She to me she looks like the comic version of Sherry.
I think what they're just trying to do is in the comics there wasn't really any like recognizable characters that were with Negan other than Dwight. It was and Sherry, but even then it really wasn't her like so much during the war.
Right.
But it was really just Negan and then a couple of henchmen. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to give the audience face to hate.
Right.
Especially with Arat and then also with Simon, even though how can you hate Simon?
Yeah, Simon's awesome.
But I think they're trying to do that. They're trying to just like give like almost like lieutenants so that when like eventually they're going to die on the show that then people watching it will be like, "Oh yeah, they're fighting back. They're taking out their lieutenants and stuff."
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be collateral on the other side also.
Well, yeah, you have to give faces to enemies. You can't just have like, oh, look, they just mowed down 20 saviors. Hooray!
But I think that's a big reason why Negan is so not just important in the comics, but why he's so like beloved by everyone else is that he was pretty much the only like villain.
Yeah, well, I mean, like
in that particular storyline, everyone else was basically just a grunt. There was like no one really associated with name.
Yeah, like they even didn't really go much into the Dwight Negan relationship in the source material, which I'm glad they're doing.
They're doing it now more than they were before.
Yeah, so like it's like there's common differences between the show and the comics that I like that they're expanding on. But sometimes whenever they go haywire on some things, it makes me nervous.
Yeah, I agree. It like makes you
uneasy.
It makes you think like, well, if they're doing that, then what else could they do potentially? Like, what are they willing to change?
Right. Kind of like because when I was during the Oceanside episode, which I just hate Oceanside. They're just like
reasons.
To me, they're just the most useless community that could ever be existed in this. And like for right now, like in the comics, they're literally just like a fishing community that just like apparently they didn't even show up until after All Out War, which makes sense because literally they have zero purpose.
Yeah, they suck.
But for whatever reason, they're just like, oh hey, look, here's a community. Oh, it's Oceanside, but not Oceanside from the comics. It's just an all-female place, which, great, it's going to work out for Carol when she eventually fucks off there and disappears for 2 seasons.
Maybe.
But
I think they might kill her character during All Out War.
Probably, but at the same time, just like trying to remember what the arc that Ezekiel's about to go through, and how
he really didn't have one, honestly.
Well, no, I mean he did because he was someone who he inspired a large community of people into war, and then he realized that it was all just a joke and that he really didn't have any skill in leading people because when he first led his raid in the compound, like pretty much his entire community got killed by the saviors because he had no battle plans. He just kind of like charged in and everyone got ambushed and died, and he felt bad about that, and That's whenever Michonne broke up with Ezekiel in the comics, is because she realized how much of a coward Ezekiel was.
Yeah.
And so I think that's going to be the same arc that Carol's going to face, where she's like, "Oh, fuck you." And
Yeah, but she's not with him right now, though, is the thing. I
they're
think
hinting
in
to
her
that big
mind,
time.
she honestly just wants to be left alone. And I think she's eventually going to get dragged into this somehow. And that she's going to do something to the point where she probably ends up reconciling and saving the safe zone,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time dying.
Which, I mean, like, it would be a great way to send off her character, because
Yeah, I
think
agree.
she's definitely one of those ones that have ran the course.
Yeah,
I just don't know how many main characters they want to kill off in this season.
Well, I don't know that it's going to happen this season.
Oh, that's true. It would.
Yeah, that'll
Go down
probably
All Out
happen
War.
next season during All Out War. Is she'll die. More than likely, Morgan will die too.
That'd be great. I'll be so happy.
And then season 9, hopefully Daryl dies.
I'm as time goes on, I'm realizing I have more and more irrational hate for Morgan.
Yeah.
Just like, because, like, honestly, besides him not getting beat to death with a bat, that's like the only reason I hate him.
Well, his character is just like he's obviously lived past what he did in the comics,
Yeah,
and he obviously is much more important than he was in the comics.
but
But at
I
the
just
same
don't see what
time,
his
he hasn't
purpose
necessarily
is.
done that much.
Right. I don't know what his purpose right now in the
He's
story is.
basically just existing. Now, a character who needs a story arc is Tobin.
Okay. No, Tobin's dying in All Out War. I'm calling it.
Yeah, no, he's probably dying in this season.
He's gonna get like flamed by some Molotov or something, or maybe he takes the RPG, like he dives in front of Carol,
Maybe.
and just
Who
gets
knows?
exploded.
I think him dying could be like a way to get her back
I don't
involved.
think she gives a shit about Tobin, to be
No.
honest.
I don't know. I mean, she left a note for him
Oh, yeah.
and cookies or something.
I don't know. It's just like there are similarities between what's going on, or what went on in the comics, and what's going on in the show, which is great. But like, not there's enough difference to where like there is that surprise every week of, oh, I'm surprised they did that, or I'm really confused on why they're going that direction, or something like
Yeah.
that. So like,
And to feed off of what like the people on Reddit and Twitter are saying, like I totally understand their problems with this season in that there is a lot of filler. But that filler is important because right now it's world building.
right. And like, it's one of those things where like I love when like seeds of story are being laid. Like that's very
Even
important to me.
Oceanside?
Even Oceanside. Because like I know what that means. Like you can't have a big climatic story if like you don't start somewhere. So it's like all these people are like, oh, why is so and so getting story, or why is so and so getting story? Like why do they keep giving side character story? It's like, well, you give side character stories so they can become more important main characters. Like imagine if Maggie, who was a side character, never got any story. Like her becoming a leader of Hilltop would mean absolutely
Spoiler.
nothing, or just be like, how the fuck did that happen? Oh yeah, spoiler. Like no one sees it coming. It's what happened in what, episode 4?
It could be Enid.
You mean Sophia? I mean Enid, whatever the
You
fuck.
mean Lydia?
Oh yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like just different
I
perspectives.
think we just
I
have
guess.
more tolerance for it.
Well, yeah, that's probably a big deal.
Like at a certain point, like if they did 8 episodes of world building, we'd be like, all right, come on, this is getting ridiculous. But it hasn't been that. I mean, there's
well,
been
no, like for me, it would have to be like pointless story. Like if they spent an entire episode only on Heath and then just killed Heath at the end, and be like, what the fuck was the point? It
I
literally
mean, like
had,
they did with Denise
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was
and
like
what they did with Olivia.
yeah, pretty much. Where like, well, even that they didn't focus on Olivia. Like if they had done like the Terra episode that everyone hated, and then by the end of the episode killed Terra, it would have been like, why? Like why even go through all that trouble?
I think they did that for an episode in the past. I just don't remember what it was.
To me, because that to me would be like, oh, you just wanted to waste an episode on developing a character that is just gonna die. Or
Yeah.
like you're trying to make them character die in the same episode. Like you that's not what you do, or that's not how I imagine you should tell a story.
No, I agree. I agree that like there's a certain level of like a tolerance that an audience will have for basically being strung along for however long it is, 43 minutes or whatever, just to have nothing happen from that.
Because like despite them saying like, oh, nothing happened in Oceanside, like what we learned from the episode is, one, there's a community out there that has a shit ton of guns that they don't know what to do with, that got attacked by the Saviors and hate the Saviors. So they have motivation to, if they want to go into all out war, to fight the Saviors if asked to or if convinced to. We also learned about a huge thing about Tara in that she keeps her promises despite being threatened and almost killed 3 times. So it's like there's these different character moments that you learn through that episode, which have like they go to what the overall story is. So like when someone says, "Oh man, that Oceanside episode, nothing happened," it's like, no, a lot happened. You just have to look into the details of what was being told or what was being shown.
Heath lost his glasses.
Yeah, how is he gonna see? What does triple P mean?
How's he driving? It means
he was
Pussy
driving
and Patron, please.
he was driving into the city so he could become the new Jack Bauer. That's what it was.
Well, that's how he ended up in the mud, is because he's basically blind now. He's legally blind, so he's swerving
all over. So yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like it bothers me more than it should when people just disregard story because all they want is action. It's like you can't get the action.
Being conditioned that way. Like,
well, yeah, but it's just
in general.
It's like have a brain.
Well, that's not just the thing for Walking Dead either. That's a very common thing just in media now, or just culture in general. Is they want whatever it is immediately. They don't want any build up to it. It's like the art of like filmmaking has like gone out the wayside in certain times where it's just every movie has to be action, no subtext, no build up, no tension, just immediate action,
immediate payoff.
I don't think that means shit. I think immediate payoff automatically takes away from the impact of things.
Exactly, but it's just one of those things where it's you're right. Like all our minds are being conditioned to have that immediate payoff to whatever, or you get bored and don't pay attention.
Well, it'd be like having no foreplay.
Go on.
And people like foreplay.
Yeah, I mean you're right. It's just like
it's the anticipation that builds up the actual act.
I like just to see people is like, oh, all this build up and
didn't think I'd go into that analogy.
Yeah, no, just like I don't know. I think people are just losing faith in the ability to pay off. Which I mean, I can understand.
They're losing faith in that they're not having their preconceived notions fulfilled.
Right.
Which is bullshit. They shouldn't have to. The writers shouldn't have to fulfill those at all. They need to tell the story they think is necessary, and then the ratings will tell like the real story as to whether or not people are willing to accept that.
Honestly, like I think a lot of the like maybe it's just like the Netflix thing, but where like they just released the entire season in one go.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that shouldn't be like the new medium. So like you have that sense where the writers can tell the story that they want to tell, but people can just blast through the season because like I think a lot of people get bored because it's like, oh, I spent 43 minutes watching Tara march through the woods. But and then they have to wait another week into another episode. Whereas if they could just hit play next episode and go right into, I don't remember what episode followed that, then I think a lot more people would have a lot more respect for the story being told if they binge.
There would be, but at the same time, then there'd be huge restrictions on like money, because AMC makes a lot of their money through advertising, so they have to run commercials and stuff. It's not like HBO where they can just have sponsorships. Essentially, or not sponsorships. I'm sorry, subscriptions to pay for stuff like that. So they have to do it this way. They have to pace it out just because of budget restrictions.
What they can do though is in the middle of the woods when Tara's going through, she can open her backpack and take out a tasty Coca-Cola, and the logo could show it, and she could drink that entire and like, tasty.
Well, that's the
if
thing.
Only I could buy more Coke.
How do you know Coca-Cola is going to be willing to support zombies eating people?
I'm just using that as an example. You want to go into Lincoln commercials? Maybe she's walking through the woods and she sees Matthew McConaughey out there in a Lincoln, and he's like, all right, and then she gets in the car and they drive to Alexandria, and then he dies or something. I don't know, but it's like. I think the Netflix method, like, I love Netflix because binging is, like, this new phenomenon.
It really is.
And I think that's the reason why a lot of people have lost patience, or a good reason, whereas they can't stand just story episodes. They need to have, like, a full experience.
I think a lot of that does come down to the breaks there are in the actual commercials themselves. Because, like, for HBO shows, it's, like, 45 minutes of your show and no commercials, but then it's over.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that is in Walking Dead, or at least in AMC, is, like, there's a shitload of commercial time.
Right.
So that takes you out of the experience entirely, and that you're not constantly focused on the story. Like you have time to recuperate and think about what's
It's
going
true.
on.
Yeah, because
Just
like
an observation.
whenever, because I like how I originally got into the show is I binge watched 5 seasons on Netflix, and
Hmm.
it was like that experience was great. And like I didn't notice any flaws or overwhelming like, oh man, I can't believe I had to watch this episode, kind of like that, because I just like, oh, I just hit the next one, oh, go on to the next one, oh, go
Yeah,
on
it's
to the
like, oh,
next
that
one.
episode wasn't that good. Well, maybe the next one isn't.
Right. Whereas this one is you like kind of have to wallow in like, oh well, maybe next week it'll be better.
Yeah.
So like I get it, but it's just like people need to calm down. Like so many people are talking about how Walking Dead Doomsday and how it needs to end now or it's gonna lose everything. It's like no, it's like there's still good story to be
A
told.
lot of
There's
people
good
just
story
don't
out there.
understand the actual storytelling elements of it and like what is restricting it. Like
Hmm.
they think that it's just the actual writing that's restricting it, when there's outside factors also. There's funding, there's like actual broadcasting. Like
Right.
there's a lot of different things that go into it that aren't considered by the average person who isn't just they're just not aware of this kind of thing,
Hmm.
where they don't stop to think about like, why am I not liking this week to week?
Right.
The best way to do it would to be honestly just wait for it to come out on Blu-ray and just watch the whole damn season. But that's not
Yeah.
going to help the show at all. They're not going to be able to keep funding for stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah. It's just one of those things where it's just like there's no way around it. People
Oh
just need
yeah,
to
there
suck it
is.
up.
There absolutely is, but it's never going to happen. It has to be on a subscription-based channel. That will never happen.
Right. Yeah. I guess unless like AMC's like, oh, 10 million viewers isn't enough. We're selling Walking Dead to the highest bidder, and Netflix is like, we got this. We'll
Yeah.
buy it, or maybe Hulu, but I hope it wouldn't be Hulu.
Okay.
Um,
Please don't be Hulu.
I just want to like talking about like small storylines and stuff. Like I missed the first watch through, and then I saw someone bring it up. Whenever apparently Fat Joey is a very important character to the Saviors, and I completely missed the story that he had or like the importance he had. I don't know if you caught it.
Referencing what exactly?
So whenever
I
Carl and
probably have missed it.
when Carl and Jesus were in the truck on the way to the compound, the
Okay.
two saviors on the back they were talking about their redirect.
Oh yeah, Fat Joey was distracting
Yeah, he
the
was
walkers.
he was working on a project distracting walkers and pushing them away from the communities and everything like that.
Was that what Michonne and that other chick saw?
I think so. So it was one of those things where it's like because Fat Joey, he was like the person that was ahead, like leading that charge and was the one in charge of all that stuff. That death is a whole lot more impactful than I thought it was, because like there was like he was.
We don't know
actually
what
an
he was
important
doing
character.
specifically though.
Well, but, like even whenever they get to the compound and you can hear Negan talking to, I think you can hear him talking to Fat Joey, and it's like he's the reason why he's the one that like oh Mark, the person that got ironed, what wasn't there at the explosive, so that's how Negan found out about the him being with the girl, whatever her name was.
Wait, what?
Remember, so the dude that got ironed, his name was Mark.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be at the redirect, but he wasn't because he was too busy having sex or whatever with the girl that's Negan's wife.
Right.
So because he wasn't there, the redirect was messed up, and like they didn't really go into much detail, but there was a problem that he said said he needed to fix, and
I don't remember that at all.
yeah, it was like it was one of those things where it's like you hear it from Carl's point of view, but it was kind of muffled and like kind of like I ended up turning because I knew there I had read a story where someone said like Fat Joe is more important than you think, so I ended up
I
turning
wonder
on.
if that's just like theorizing or if it's actually important to the story.
Well, I mean like maybe not important to the story, but like he was an important character to the Saviors. Like
Yeah,
he was
I
more than
agree.
just a henchman that just had a funny name and didn't touch Lucille's pussy.
Freaking fatty.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things where it's like sometimes like you miss stuff on the first watch through and then you go back and it's like, oh, that was a whole lot more important than I thought. And it's one of those things where it's like I hope that because it was such a small thing, I hope that that plays a role later on. Because it would be one of those things where it's like, oh, there was a reason they showed this conversation or they were talking about this or just like I'm a sucker for small details turning
Yeah.
into big.
That's
plot
definitely
points.
your thing, because to me that seems like that's a subplot that doesn't need explaining.
Well, but it's like a subplot where it would be great if it like
If
came
it
out of
pays
nowhere.
out in some way.
Yeah, it pays out, and people are like, "Wait, where'd that come
I
from?" And
don't.
it's
Yeah,
like you
that's
go
the
back and
problem with
rewatch
it.
it. Well, yeah,
I
but it's
think
like you go back and rewatch it, like, oh, you connect all these different dots, and like, oh,
forcing
that's
your
why it
viewers
pays
to
off.
rewatch something to understand what's going on currently is not effective.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but it's just one of those things where I like connecting dots to find a reason why something happened.
No, I mean like I'm all for you doing that. Go ahead, but like not the average viewer doesn't really
Yeah,
consider that. And unfortunately, they have to tailor a show like this for the average viewer. So,
yeah, but it's just one of those really crazy things. Where it's like, oh,
I don't know. I can definitely see both sides of it. I can see your side in that you want to have something small like that pay off to be something big, where it's like almost a somewhat of a plot twist, and that it's like started out small and now it's a
or
big
like
thing.
something that looked like it was no big deal turned
Right,
out to be a big
right.
deal.
But I can also see it from the showrunner's point of view, in that like it could honestly just be random chatter to go on to make it just seem like there are other things going on at the
Right.
community.
Yeah, and that's probably more likely what it is. But it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, that would be really cool to see, or see play out in a way.
That happens a lot in like in shows or in movies and stuff, where it's like there's always like one small subplot that's like not explained at all, but you'll want to totally know why. I
Mm-hmm.
remember specifically in Kill Bill, the Korean Chinese woman, I forget what the hell her name. Oren. Um, they're talking about how her father was like stationed at like a military base, and how eventually her parents are killed by like the Yakuza gang. But they never actually explain like why they were in trouble with the Yakuza gang.
Mm-hmm.
And that was always something that really like interested me. I was like, well, how did they get involved if like he's a military man on the base, like, and his wife wasn't? Was she doing something and he basically got like pulled into it somehow and had to like defend her, or like how
Right.
did that happen? But it's like it's totally never explained because it's not important to the story.
Right. But like you said, it's one of those things like you kind of wish it was explained
Right.
or right
Exactly.
had a purpose.
But the second it is explained and gone into, you're immediately drawn out of the actual story that's being explained.
Yeah, but I think in something like The Walking Dead, where there's multiple storylines going on at once, it's like it's something that can be added into something or
Maybe.
be used to propel
Who knows?
something
Maybe
forward.
that will be a big point. Maybe like there were a couple of the shots in the preview of the coming episodes, I guess it was, for the after the mid-season finale. Is there were a lot of driving scenes where they're just driving on like a highway or something. There might be something connected to that.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows?
Yeah, it'd be interesting. It's interesting to see where. I'm excited for the second half of the season because I think now
I think we're gonna get a lot more major character deaths.
it's possible. I think we're because they spent their time and did their due diligence in building a lot of story at the beginning of the season. I think now we're going to start seeing a ramp up towards All Out War because I think this half season is going to be more of the March to War stuff, and then
I
All Out
think
War
it's
being
gonna be a
season 8.
lot like last season, and that they did that a little bit too. Is they didn't do so much world building, but they did a lot of plot driven stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that by the time the uh, end of the season or tail end of the season started ramping up, it got really intense in some like episode after episode, especially the raid on the satellite station.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're gonna see something like that, and that they've spent a lot of time world building now. That now we're gonna see those worlds colliding,
Yeah, I'm excited to see
um,
that.
and we'll be able to see them basically form uneasy alliances between each other.
I
And it'd
will.
be interesting to see if they like bamboozle each other and kind of like go like against each other just to get on the better side of the saviors. Like if Oceanside does that, maybe like
Yeah.
after they get dragged into it, are they
Mm-hmm.
maybe gonna back down and side with the saviors just for their own safety?
I don't think that per se. It would be interesting to see how they go about getting Oceanside to join the fight.
Hmm.
I imagine it probably something to do with Tara and maybe Carol going on a journey and then Carol staying or some shit. Um, I was excited that Jesus was the one that mentioned, I want to show you King Ezekiel. Because like
Hmm.
that was my main problem with Carol and Morgan finding the kingdom is that then Morgan would get credited with finding the kingdom and presenting it to Rick. So
Even
I'm
though he
glad
didn't.
Right. So I'm glad that Jesus is going to be the one that shows Rick the kingdom, which means he gets reunited with
I
Morgan,
mean,
which
they did
means
mention it briefly when they were at the dinner table last season with Jesus, and he said we have established trade groups with other communities,
hmm
and he's like, your world is about to get a whole lot bigger.
right.
So I mean, he may even know of a smaller community. He may have known what was it, the library community from last season.
hmm
He may have known them, and he might know another community, maybe where the guy with the boots is from.
Right. Yeah.
So
I've seen a lot of retarded people talking about what they think that is. And it's just like, nope, 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 nope.
a lot of the
Stop.
stuff is just impractical, where it's
Yeah.
like it's way too early to introduce stuff. Because a lot of what I was seeing was stuff from the Whisperers,
Yeah. That's
which
exactly
is
what it
it's
was.
way too early to be introducing that.
Yeah. And that,
Like we're at
like,
least like 2 seasons away from that.
and if they do the fair, 3, yay!
I don't think they're gonna do that.
I think they
Although if they
might.
had a season in between, but like before the Whisperers showed up and started wreaking havoc, where it was just basically back to them doing like basic survival stuff,
hmm
I personally would enjoy that because
Well,
I don't
like
think they've done enough of that. I
we
think
might.
they're way too settled in their communities now, and it's
We,
becoming almost a different kind of show.
I think what will happen after All Out War, which we're going like way overboard on predictions here, but I think what will probably happen is there's going to be so much destruction because of the war. The season following that is going to be the rebuilding of the communities and them talking about the fair and the trading and everything, and we'll see them like scavenging towards that, and then we'll get the time skip to like the end of the fair will probably be like the beginning of the season or something like that, the season that follows, and then
That's a
followed
good
by
idea.
Whispers. But
Yeah,
it's
it'll be
like
interesting to see how things play out.
yeah, it's just like there's no way you could possibly predict what they're thinking. I doubt they're even thinking about what they're going to be doing after All Out War.
They're probably worried about getting funding.
Yeah, I don't imagine they'll have any trouble, but because like All Out War, I think is going to be something where it's going to bring a lot of people to watch it, just because
It's going to bring a lot of people to watch it, but I don't know that it's going to be done well. I don't think that they have the means to show it properly
that's
because
true.
it should be shown in like how like they film an action scene for a movie. But a lot of the fighting that's done on the show is very short bursts,
hmm
and there's not many drawn out conflicts other than the two ones at the, or not even the two, the one at the prison, which
Right.
was still, the way they fixed that was they just had a lot of characters pairing up
hmm
and fighting, like the governor, and then they made it a lot about just like evacuating the prison. So I don't know how well they're gonna actually show like multiple groups of people fighting in multiple different areas. I'm nervous about that.
I think it's good to be cautiously optimistic about it.
I mean, I hope they do well, but I just don't know based on their track record of having not done something of that magnitude.
hmm
I
I
just
think it'll
don't
be
know.
it's like an opportunity for them to show like, hey, we have the ability to do
If they
this.
can do it, then they're gonna nail the Whisperer War.
Yeah, and what will hopefully follow.
Yeah, hopefully. Cross our
Um,
fingers.
Yeah, I don't know. Just like I'm trying to think, because like a lot has happened this season. I'm trying to remember like other big parts. Like the season premiere was fantastic. It was like I thought it was a great way to come back into the season.
Yep, totally agree.
It was like a great Rick episode. Um,
Great Glenn episode.
he went everywhere. He was all over
Had
the
his eye
place.
on the ball.
Yeah. Jeez, I just like Negan's casting to me has been great.
He's very transformative to what Negan was in the comics.
hmm
I will always like Negan more in the comics, but
Yeah.
that doesn't take away from what Jeffrey Dean Morgan
I
is doing
the,
as Negan.
the only thing I think as like a downplay that he could improve on is we haven't really seen a lot of angry like yelling Negan in the show, and for the few times he has, it seemed really weird to me.
Well, he's like, whenever he's yelling, it's never genuine, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Like the acting isn't genuine, but everything else is very like controlling, conniving, whatever you want to call it.
hmm
But like when he's actually frustrated, I don't feel like he really is. Because in the comics, the way it's drawn, and at least the way I read it,
Hmm.
is that like he's not just angry in those moments. Like he'll just kill anybody in those moments where it's like he loses control of himself.
Right, and I just don't get that feeling in the
Exactly.
show.
I mean, that may happen at some point, but I have yet to see it. I'm not saying he's a bad actor. I'm just saying
Yeah, no,
like
no, no. It's just one of
he's
those
not.
things where it's like it just seems really weird that that transformation. Whenever it goes into that transformation, it's like, oh, he's funny, ha ha ha. Oh, now he's really mad for some reason. It's like it just seems like really
He's mad, but
off-putting.
I don't really feel like he's mad because he was just happy and he's still somewhat acting that way.
Yeah,
He's much more of a
I wish I could think of a good example to tell you. Like I know in
well,
the
I know
mid-season
personally
finale.
when Rosita shot Lucille,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was
that,
nowhere near angry enough, in my opinion.
yeah. It just seemed like he was still like he was mad. Like I got like the yelling part,
Hmm.
but it just seemed like he was like in my mind he was still like that sarcastic, joking,
What they're
busting
trying to
balls.
do, and I see it with Simon also, is they're trying to make them more like abusive than controlling. Because Simon hasn't had any angry outbursts. He's just basically been taking advantage of everyone else. Even when he
Hmm.
was beating up the one guy in the woods from the library community,
Yeah.
they just seem to relish seeing others in pain. But when their groups are attacked, or if something they value, Lucille, is damaged, they don't really seem genuine in the way they act.
Hmm.
So that I don't know. That may just be lack of direction, like from the director's part, or it
Right.
could just be the actors are.
Or maybe just like expecting too much.
That's probably what it is. Because I mean, when everyone, even when you read a book, everyone reads a character with a different like inflection in their voice and stuff.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, it was just like one of
it
those,
seems like we're being overly critical and that we hate what's happening,
but
but
it's
we
the
really don't.
opposite.
We really don't. We're more just surprised at how things are playing out.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I really wasn't expecting them to either do or do well. Like I was surprised at how good Carl's eye looked.
And I was
And
surprised that well, first of all, that they did Spencer's death, and that they actually made it as good as they did.
hmm
So,
to me, I wonder. Part of me hopes that they cut his Carl's hair and they actually showed like he just follows Negan's advice and doesn't cover it up anymore. So it just makes him look like a badass pretty much. But I just like the show person. Like I just know like they're like, oh, that's going to cost too much money to do. Oh, we're going to keep
yeah,
his hair
I
long and
mean,
cover it up.
in terms of comic accuracy and just like what probably everyone wants to see,
Hmm.
or a majority, yes. But in terms of practicality and the amount of time it would go into getting that prepared for every shot and stuff, it's just totally ridiculous.
Yeah. So that's whenever like your view of what you want to see is completely shattered by the possibility of what could happen
It's honestly more likely that they'll not use the bandage, they'll just grow his hair out longer.
and cover up the eye completely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, that's probably more likely the scenario.
They
And
can
just
still cut his hair like around like the shoulders and shit because he looks like a homeless person. He's starting to look like Daryl. But
for good
as far
reason.
as like the bangs and stuff, they could just like slant them so it goes over his eye.
Yeah, or just CGI his eye.
Man, that's
Have him
that's
wear a green patch.
that's impractical also though.
Yeah, yeah. But it's just like I was surprised they did Shiva, even though like I know Shiva doesn't have a big part in the story overall, but I just think it's fucking cool that there's a tiger.
Yep. Still waiting for Rick to lose his hand.
That's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
I thought for sure in the premiere they're gonna cut his hand off. There were so many moments where it's like
That was
axe
just
comes
basically
down.
that was just like
It was done on purpose.
oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely. It was done basically just to mess with people.
Yeah, and like that entire premiere, I was like pretty much on the edge of my seat because like I knew what was gonna happen, but I didn't know how or like if they were gonna do certain things. Like there were times where like, is he gonna really cut off Carl's arm? Like it sounds so stupid now to say that because it's like obviously they're not gonna cut off his arm, but like in the moment I was like, oh shit.
It's because that episode was so well done. Like
Hmm.
it was definitely the best episode of Walking Dead.
Um. Yeah. Yeah. I can't think of anything to argue that with. I think maybe like the best storytelling, even though there wasn't much story to be told, but there was just like a lot of character development happening.
I know you don't have a counter prepared, but I can't think of a single episode of any of the seasons that was better.
There are different episodes that I like for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So
But in
like
terms of like having a bunch of different, not techniques, but elements thrown in,
yeah,
action, tension, humor, whatever you want to call them. Like it seemed like it had all of them in spades.
that's true. Yeah, I can see that.
So
Where a lot of the stuff I was seeing is like, oh, I like this episode because it had like the best, teamwork action, and then I like this episode because it had the best strategy action or something like that.
a lot of the episodes I like are just the ones that follow individual characters because those are the ones that usually have the best music.
That's
And
true. Yeah.
because a lot of the music in Walking Dead is totally unnecessary and doesn't fit.
Easy Street.
But there are a lot of other episodes that it does. Like when they were introducing Bob Stuckey, that was one of my favorite episodes just because of the use of music in it.
Right.
But
Which is like such an important part that goes so underrated.
yeah,
Is music in episodes.
it's the best time for music is when you notice it, but it works. A lot of times, especially with frickin' Negan, I hate how they're doing that guitar riff bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
It totally takes me out of the experience.
Yeah, they're trying to like set the tone with the music. That
Yeah,
you're supposed to like, oh, you're supposed to be scared of him now.
And they haven't done the whistle since the fucking season opening.
That was so great. The whistle.
What happened to that?
He did the whistle in I think when he was talking with Carl,
Did he?
or at least he like hummed something. He's like,
Well, it must have been really quick then.
well, it was like, yeah, it wasn't like a long drawn thing, but I think he was saying like he's more of hummed it than whistled it. But yeah, I think I remember it coming up. It wasn't as because like that was fucking terrifying when they were going through the woods, like running through the woods with Maggie, and all you hear is the whistling. Like that was great.
Well, even the other parts when they were just like in the woods in general, when they were capturing Glenn and stuff, it just like it sets the tone immediately. It's like you know what's happening. There's like the sense of dread. It's like the Jaws theme, even though it's
Right.
not. Jaws theme is better, but it's like comparable to that, where it's like you get the immediate sense of tension.
But I think that would be way overused if every time they showed Negan they had the whistle in the
No, I'm
background
not
or
saying
something
they
like
have to use it every time. I'm saying like it's been something that's been severely lacking.
that.
Like we're on episode 8 now, and you're saying we've heard it once since the season premiere.
Well, I
Seems like
mean,
that's
How many episodes
kind
have
of
Negan
missing.
been in though? Or
That's
Saber's
been
in?
7, and they hummed it once.
Yeah, but like how often would it have been useful? Like when they're going into Hilltop.
They could have done it immediately when in the last episode, when they opened the gate, and there were the saviors there, and they didn't expect them to be there. That would have been the perfect time for them to do it. Like as soon as that gate opens, the savior behind there just starts whistling, like to their face essentially.
Or I also put it in cool when Negan was walking away from Spencer and he started whistling as he was walking away.
They could have did it there.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know. It seems like they made such a big emphasis of it before, and it was very effective, that them removing it seems out of place.
Yeah. I don't know. I just like I would hate for them. I'd rather them almost not use it than overuse it. Just because like
No, I agree.
because the fact that like it had such an impact in those 2 episodes makes it have an impact in those 2 episodes. Whereas if they started kind of like how you were talking about whenever in the premiere when Negan was using Lucille to kill zombies at the RV, like oh I hope they don't overuse Lucille. It's like the same thing where it's like it's almost like this special thing where if you do something that's special too much, it just doesn't become special anymore.
Yeah.
To where like if they did that whistle, it would almost lose its importance or its I don't know the correct word to say it, but it's like it would lose its meaning to me if they use it like every episode.
I agree. I feel like there and I think we agree on this, that there have been moments where it would have been very effective though.
Yeah.
Especially in the last one when Aaron and Rick opened the gate and the guy's there. It would have been a perfect time for him to do the whistle, and it would have basically just been like PTSD in Rick.
Yeah.
So
Can we talk not much, but like Aaron, I think is becoming a really cool character in the show now.
I agree. He's definitely coming into his own.
Which I'm so because he's like I was surprised. I'm surprised, honestly, like because he was started out with like such a like non throwaway character in season 5 when he showed up. But like all of a sudden, he like very like out of nowhere, he's become this like powerhouse
I
character.
think he literally
And I don't know
just
what I don't know
walks
what his
around the
switch
side of a
was.
tree in the episode he's introduced.
Yeah, like I don't like it's one of those things where like most of the time with a character, I can tell you the turnaround point, or at least for me, where I start giving a shit about the character. I don't know where that point is with Aaron.
For me, it was when he was at the boat with Rick.
So it took you that long.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's one of those things where
Like
it's
when
like
he's like, "I'm gonna pretend you didn't say that." It's like, all right, well now this guy's like he's like standing up for himself. And then that conversation when they were loading the truck, like he's not just like accepting, like the new world and stuff, but he's
like, I was
basically
there. I know
he's doing what he did before when like he went out to recruit people, where
Mhm.
he's providing for people, but now he's doing it in a different way. Where it's
Right.
like it's showing how he cares a lot about other people, not necessarily himself.
But it was like this weird moment whenever like he fell in the water, and obviously they weren't going to kill him. But it was like this moment is like, oh, I hope they don't kill him.
Yeah.
And it's like, why do I care about this character again? Because like he just like he doesn't really have an importance right now. But it's just like, oh wait, I actually do care about this person.
He still hasn't met Jesus yet.
Yeah, exactly. That doesn't happen for
And
a
they
while.
still haven't introduced Jesus being gay yet either.
It concerns me if they're going to do that. I think I read an article where they said he was, but like it still concerns me that they might not. Because like it's one of those things like I don't think it adds to the character at all, but it's still like a very.
I think it does. I think it gives him, it makes him more, more human.
Well, but it's just one of those things where it doesn't affect the story overall, like what his sexual preference is. Like it's not like because
Yeah.
Aaron and Jesus are dating, it makes the story more compelling for something.
No, but it could if the other guy dies. What's
Which
his name?
we haven't
Eric?
seen. We haven't seen him in fucking like what
I don't know.
10, 12 episodes.
Maybe they're just like afraid to do that.
I hope. I mean, I do hope they do it, but it's just one of those things where it's like my heart wouldn't break.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it doesn't like it doesn't change the story immediately, but at the same time, it does allow for like different story arcs to open
That's true.
in conversations and stuff. Like especially between him and Michonne, at least in the comics, Jesus and Michonne, just talking about that. I don't know. I don't have a problem with it.
it's
I
just
don't
one
have
of
a
those
problem
things,
with them doing them either.
But
him
no, I
just-
don't. Yeah, absolutely not.
Either
It's
him
just one of
being
those things-
platonic or him being gay, but I feel like it would be a total like misuse of the character and just basically shitting on him if they just make him straight.
Well, it's one
It's
of
like
those
because
things.
that's what he is in the comics. He's a gay dude.
Yeah, it's like
That's
again,
just
it's
his
like
preference.
it is no thing on the story if he's gay or straight. So might as well just make him gay. But it's just one of those things where it's like the thing I don't like about the comics and per se is like how much focus there is on individual relationships, or at least early on. There was like a lot of focus on so and so is now dating so and so, and now there's drama here. Where I'm glad they avoided that in the show, but to me like it just wastes time whenever they do those type of relationships for no reason.
I kind of like it because it makes it seem more like a group, but I definitely understand what you're saying. Where
Well,
it's
I
like,
remember,
yes, it like takes time, but at the same time, I feel like it builds up the community more, and it makes it feel like they're trying to actually build something.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things where it's like, again, it's like a deviation from the source material, which I think is good, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It will be interesting to see where they go in the future and how closely they follow certain storylines and change certain storylines, and hopefully they don't turn Michonne into Andrea because that would be awful. Or if they do, at least change her name to Andrea in the show. Can you imagine if Michonne walked in like, I know I never met her, or actually no, she did meet her. It's like I'm gonna be Andrea now. And
Dibs.
Rick's like, all right, whatever you say.
Yeah, I'm dyeing my hair blonde.
Cutting off my dreads, giving them to
Father Gabriel.
Sasha. Oh yeah, Gabriel
He's
had
bald.
the biggest. He's had the biggest come around, I think, in the show.
Yeah, I agree.
Hating
I
Rick
think
doesn't make
whatever
you a sinner; it
happens,
just makes
we're
you a
gonna
tremendous
see-
shit.
We're gonna see some major character deaths this season,
Oh yeah.
and it's definitely going to be leading up to All Out War. We might see a little bit of it, maybe, but if we do, it's not going to be enough to really.
I think it's just going to be.
It'll just be like a small skirmish.
Yeah, it's going to be basically the audience saying. Like the way I imagine it is because I remember I think there was a second lineup at Alexandria, and I don't remember the cause of it. But Negan's about to bash someone else's skull in whenever I think the Kingdom or Hilltop comes and they start having a fight outside of Alexandria. And that's when they said, "All right, that's enough. We're going. This is all out war," and that's like the end of the issue. I have to find it. I'm pretty sure. That's how
I
it
don't
goes.
remember that. I feel like I should.
But that would be like a great place to end because like
They'll
it'd be
probably
a
do
cliffhanger,
that,
but it
and
wouldn't be a cliffhanger.
I think they'll do that, and depending on how the rest of this season goes, they may kill one of Negan's lieutenants.
Hope it's not Simon.
I don't think it will be, but it depends on what is shown, like throughout the rest. Like if they're using Simon a lot more this season, then yes, it's gonna be him. But if they use Arat more, then yes, it's definitely gonna be her.
I secretly hope that Simon just stays on the show forever.
I secretly hope that Arat actually gets a story arc.
Yeah.
But that won't happen. She doesn't necessarily need one.
Yeah. This is one of the things I just like Stephen Ogg as an actor.
Yeah.
So it's like I want him to stay on this show for as long as possible.
Yeah, and that Arat chick is really hot, so I feel the same way.
Exactly.
Anyway, that's probably good enough. Make sure to tune in at the end of Season 7, which will be probably in March or April.
Imagine April.
We'll see. But
Whenever
tune in
that
for
is.
that, and you can get an earful, another almost hour from us.
Yeah. Because we're super smart about Walking Dead stuff. We know everything that's going to happen and what will happen.
Yeah, we only stumbled over our words for an hour.
Yeah, we're professionals.
All right, well, tune in then.